everybody, it's Sophie and Marco. Discuss the movies.
No, we dish out on movies. We don't discuss. We dish out on them.
Well, today we're dishing out on episode 6 of The Alienist.
Oh boy.
Called Ascension, which aired yesterday, February 26th. First, before we start the review, I wanted to address the issue I brought up last week. Is Sarah Howard a character created by some director to further an agenda?
Yes.
No. Or is she... sorry.
Well, her interpretation on the show is, but the character is in the book is not.
Right. And I've been... we thought this, or suspicious of this, because we saw this TNT commercial, and we happened to see it again last night. And it was narrated by a Miss Rashida Jones, or it's Rashida Jones. We're not sure if that's the right person. She's a director, and she emphasized the strong female characters in the new TNT series shows like Sarah Howard in The Alienist, and an upcoming series which show with women who are in called Claws. And it sounded as if these roles were juiced up to further some kind of agenda. That's just what it sounded like in the commercial. So last week I promised to reread the book to check how Caleb Carr, who's the author of The Alienist, treated the character Sarah Howard. And while I did not have the time to finish rereading the entire book yet, I have read enough of it to determine that Sarah Howard is central to the book's plotline, even more so than what is portrayed in the TV series. As described on TV, Howard's mother died at a young age, and as she had no siblings, she was therefore raised solely by her father. In the book, he taught her, quote, to ride, shoot, gamble, and drink with any Hudson Valley gentleman. Howard even possesses a gun, which she shows to Laszlo and Moore in the book, and it's a Colt #1 Derringer, and she claims that although it's small, it's loaded with a .41 caliber bullet. Another thing her father did to make her education more real, and so she wouldn't end up like a pansy woman of that time, a pansy rich woman, her father also insisted she work with a nurse for a time, so she has medical knowledge. So, like the show, Howard does become an integral part of the group investigating the murders of the kids.
But it's more natural in the book and more organic.
Whatever. And she even reveals to Dr. Chrysler, Laszlo, that she has a, quote, decent background in criminology. And also, Chrysler tells Moore that he's impressed with her so much, quote, we must find more ways to take advantage of Sarah's perspective. So they respect her, highly respect her intellect and her help. And one more thing I just wanted to say, that remember when they were at Castle Garden, and she kind of stood off to the side, and she did come up and see the body, but in the book, she actually helps the Isaacson brothers collect evidence from the body, and that was not shown on TV. So it's just, therefore, I just wanted to say she is not placed in the show by some agenda-driven director, but is a real character in the book itself who plays a primary role in the formation of the story. Okay.
But on the show, she's not a character, she's an agenda character.
Well, we'll see.
It's true.
We'll see. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. And my suggestion to everybody is read the book, because it's really good. and it explains some things that are going on in the scenes and backstories about people that gives it a lot more what would you call it, depth than what's shown in the series. And I know they don't have enough time to show all that, but you will get that in if you read the book. So back to episode 6, which is called Ascension, like I said. And if you recall, last week Chrysler's investigators determined that the killings were done on Christian holidays, and the next holiday coming up was going to be the Feast of the Ascension. In this episode, they plan to use Stevie, Laszlo's young employee. Laszlo is Chrysler's first name, so I'll just refer to him as Laszlo instead of Dr. Chrysler, okay? He uses Stevie to trap the murderer outside the brothel on Feast of Ascension Day. Roosevelt has to shut down all the brothels except one or two that day so they can narrow their focus. Right up front, while the Isaacson brothers are laying out the groundwork for surveillance and capture, Lucius Isaacson tells Sarah that she can't do much because, quote, this is not a task for the weak or sex. Ugh, boy, bae.
It's not a task for her, to be honest.
And Laszlo can't help either because, quote, I'm a cripple, he interrupts. So Sarah and Chrysler wait in a carriage out front, while John Moore and Marcus Isaacson watch from atop a building. They watch Stevie dressed as a girl on the street, and Cyrus and Lucius Isaacson stand on another roof watching the windows of the brothel. Marcus sees someone sneaking around the windows of the building and tackles him only to discover it's a priest carrying Bibles. Nothing happens for the rest of the night except that Cyrus remarked the 17 men approach Stevie on the street. They decide to come back in a little over a week for the Pentecost holiday, but Chrysler is not so sure. In fact, he's beginning to have some self-doubt about what he's come up with, and I'm not sure why. And I'll just mention there's a charity auction going on later during the day, probably the next day, which is attended by Moore and his grandma and the Roosevelt family. J.P. Morgan, one of the richest men in New York and maybe the world, threatens Roosevelt. Bishop Potter said Chrysler visited him wanting to know about the Van Bergen family. He informed Roosevelt that the Van Bergens were leaving soon for Buenos Aires, so the children in the area don't have to worry anymore. What about the children in Buenos Aires and anywhere else? Roosevelt asked. Then Morgan says if Roosevelt and his team doesn't lay off and leave their kind, he says, quote, their kind alone, he will lose his job and all his friends. Outside, Sarah and John sit together and she shows him an old article from a newspaper clipping that as a child Dr. Chrysler performed a very difficult Mozart piano piece. But in order to do that, he would have needed 2 working hands, and he has been telling everyone he was born with a bad arm. So he only has use of one arm. In fact, like I said, he said he was a cripple and had to sit outside the surveillance scene on the Ascension Day. And so there's evidence of that, him admitting that he has a bad arm. So, but he didn't when he played that piano piece when he was a kid, Sarah says. So why is he lying about his past? Okay, Marco, what would you like to talk about at this? There's some spoilers, but we'll save that for the end, and I don't know if Marco wants to talk about the spoilers.
Well, it was fun. I mean, the thing about it is that, like, you have a line like he's saying this isn't a task for the weak or sex. That line isn't, like, analyzed or gone into at all. It's just like, oh yeah, this is a line, we move on. And it's almost, it really is like an agenda because you can tell, because if they were actually writing if they weren't just putting in agendas. They would go into that and they would have a dialogue about what are you talking about, and they would go back and forth. And but in this show, it's just we have that one, then we move on because they're trying to further their agenda, and the characters, nothing, they're not really very good this episode. It's just it's they're just going through the motions of in the book. Uh, Sarah's always the worst character. That guy licks his mate's wound, and
No, she cut her hand while she was chopping up vegetables. This is Dr. Kreitzler's. I don't know. She was his patient, and he helped her. She's the one that burned down her father in his bed because he had sexually abused her as a little girl, and she was chopping up vegetables in the kitchen, and she cut her finger, and she had a bandage around it. And he said, "What happened to your finger?" He's eating, and he said, "What happened to your finger?" And he unwraps it and sees it's still bleeding, and he licks the wound and says saliva helps stop the bleeding, and that's why animals lick their wounds.
and
That was kind of weird.
and then he just brushes her off again.
And she's kind of stomped off.
It's really
don't know
funny
what that
how like every time, like he just doesn't. I mean, he just pushes her off.
And
It's really funny, and once again he had another zinger this episode. I can't remember what it was. You remember his zinger?
I'm not sure.
That's the only part of the show that I like a lot.
The zinger I remembered was the one, you can't help with this or you can't help with surveillance, etc., because you're the.
That's
the
not a
weakest.
zinger. That's just a fact about her.
Well, the thing
Her
is,
character.
you got to think about it. She's wearing an extremely thick, long maxi dress.
And she's also
with a corset. There's no way she could
Yeah.
run.
and
She doesn't have a gun in the
she's-
movie.
She's
in the
also
show.
she's also not even thinking about the investigation.
No,
She's thinking about how she can analyze and break down Laszlo by investigating his hand. A detail that is not important at the moment. What's important is catching the killer and getting him off the street, and she's focusing on his hand.
Yeah, she
And-
oversteps her bounds.
Yeah.
And, well, do you want to tell him what happens?
And then he slaps her because she basically confronts him and shows him the musical piece, and he slaps her
Says
And-
you're overstepping your bounds.
Yeah. And there's nothing said about that effort. It's just another scene to further their agenda. But overall, I don't know. There's just it's not a deep show. It's not. It doesn't feel like it was written by somebody who knows how to write a story well.
And he's not talking about Caleb Carr. He's probably talking about the person who adapted
It's just really
the book to the
one-dimensional.
screen.
Really, really one-dimensional filler entertainment.
Well, that's Marco's opinion. I still like it, and but there are a couple of things like she seems she seems overly interested in why he is lying about his arm, and I think what's brought out in the book is that more so than in the show, but maybe it was brought out in the show. I don't remember. Was that. And he is having self-doubts about what he's thinking about the case.
Hey, that was last week.
Well, but he did express that in yesterday's episode, too.
That was the main focus of last week.
He got
though.
mad at himself. And he almost gets, depressed because he feels like he can't, I don't know, he just can't. And what the thing about his arm is, Sarah thinks that something that happened to him when he is a kid is affecting his analysis of who the killer is for this these murders.
She's not telling him that though. She's
No,
just
that's in the book.
she's just saying, "You're lying, you piece of crap."
No, she didn't call him a piece of crap.
That's what her tone was like with him.
Yeah, whatever. But
she's like, "Look, I got some dirt on you. Look, you see this musical piece?
She didn't say it like that at all.
That's what her expressions were like.
God.
Because the actress feels empowered, so.
So this happened not at the first this Ascension Day. The second Ascension Day, they changed things up, and because all of the boy whores, that's what they call them, were taken from their rooms somehow, or they left their rooms in the brothel, Sarah arranges for Stevie to be in a brothel room. So they set up like
you mean Stella?
Well, has to call himself Stella. And what would happen is Stevie would be downstairs in the reception area, or the bar area, whatever you want to call it. And if somebody was bothering him and he thought that could be the killer, that he's supposed to like itch his foot with his boot, like stand there and do that, not so the killer wouldn't see that. And then John Moore is in there, sitting at a table by himself, and who is it? One of the
Joseph?
Isaacson brothers.
Oh, Marcus.
Marcus. I don't know why I keep getting them mixed up. Marcus is. He's also there, sitting at a table, and something happens. Well, the bad guy, does come up to him, and it's not who you think it is. And he starts, or he could be the bad guy, and he starts bothering him, and he says, "Go upstairs and wait for me." And so Stevie gives him the signal, and Marcus chases him with a gun. And you want to...
Well, okay, what did you think about the episode? Because I went on a long tirade about it. So what did you think? Did you like this episode?
Yeah, I did. But I didn't like the fact, but see, the thing is, I think what you have to do is you have to read the book too. Because they're just, I don't know if they can't show it because they don't have enough episodes. Yeah, but it's fun to see it played out.
And not really when it's done poorly.
Well, like I was telling Marco, in the book, this is just a little detail. But after that first night on the Ascension, they're getting ready to pack up and go home. And you see these men in white. You just barely see them. They're on the streets and they're cleaning the streets. And in the book, that's a cleaning crew. And what they do, they were in Rhode Island, and they decided to have them come there in New York City. And what they do is they shovel all the horse poop, all like dead horses, because they show a dead horse in this show. And they just let them lie the people just let them lie in the street. There's trash in the street. There's horse manure in the street. And they shovel all that stuff up. And they're like a gang of guys. And they get real crabby if somebody, and there's a name for them, I don't remember. They get real crabby if somebody throws something in the street, even if it's a little piece of trash. Because they're shoveling it all really clean. And they really did make everything a lot better because it stunk. It was gross, and after these people came and cleaned up the streets, they shoveled it all in these carts and drove it away, then the streets looked a lot nicer and better. So they showed that. You just barely see these men in white, but there's no explanation. You don't even know what that is.
That's another example of something happening, and they don't explain what's happening.
And it's not really pertinent to the case.
One-dimensional.
But it is an historic thing. I mean, to me, it's just amazing because I do genealogy and history, and it's just amazing that the changes that our country has gone through in certain areas, like just this criminal investigation, the fingerprinting, the profiling, drawing pictures, all surveillance, all of this is just amazing to me. and the evolution and how far we've come, and how you think you just take it for granted that these things have been going on all along, and they haven't. The way we do things now, we're still evolving with investigative techniques. So anyway, so on the Pentecost day, they do the same thing again. I told you they set him up. They set Stevie up in the brothel. Some bad guy comes up to him. He itches his foot. Marcus chases him. They don't get him. Even though Marcus fired his gun multiple times, could not stop him. And Cyrus gets hurt because they all run down there except Cyrus, because he tells them to stay there. Lucius does. And so he stays there. He gets hurt, and they don't understand why did he do that. And they turn around and look at the brothel, and one of the windows is open, which probably means that the killer got somebody. So while all that was going on,
Which, how he did that so fast
quick,
is
but I don't think it's
mystery.
quick. I don't think. Yeah, that's the problem. It's so quick, and you wonder how can it be
It's pretty
that quick?
confusing because it's so one-dimensional storytelling. You don't really know what's going on.
So I think basically Marco doesn't like it, but
No, I don't.
I do, and I love the book. And anyway, I think we'll dispense with that. I'll keep reading the book, and
It's better than Hannibal season 3.
yeah, but there is a big spoiler and has a very big impact, and none of them know about it yet. So do you want to tell them?
No, not this week. They can watch it themselves.
Okay, well, there's a huge revelation, and they are not aware of it. A couple of other people are, and I'm sure more people than that will be.
I would give this
aware.
episode a C-.
Well,
very close to a D.
oh, I'm not going to do that, but anyway, I think we're done, and we have more movies to wrap up, watch them, wrap up, review them, wrap up for the month of February. As usual, we're behind, but
What would you give this episode? What rating would you give
I'll just give it a B, hon.
Oh, God.
Poor Marco. He just really does not like Dakota Fanning as an actress, or he doesn't like her part.
I don't like her as an actress. I don't like her part. I don't like the writers who are inserting agendas and using one-dimensional storytelling to try to, I don't know what their end goal is. They're not making any change in society by doing this agenda-driven one-dimensional storytelling. So I don't know. And it's also irritating that Daniel and that other guy, what's that other guy's name again? Luke Evans, that they're put in this one-dimensional agenda show. Like, they deserve a better show, a better written show.
All right, well, I think we're done now, and
Yeah.
we'll be back. See you soon, and don't forget to watch it, because you have to see what the big reveal is, what happens, and what effect that will have on the investigation.
Yeah. So, goodbye.
Bye, everybody.